Where's Ken? Councilmember Price. I'd like to invite Cub Scout Troop 356 and Boy Scout Troop 87 to come forward and lead us in the pledge. If we all stand and face the flag. Gentlemen, come forward. I think James is going to start this off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gentlemen, before you sit down, I'd like each one of you to go to the microphone and tell us, give us your name.
Caleb McClung, Andy Chapman, James Everidge. My name's Peter. The Valley.
My name is Connor Mulland.
My name is Roman Cheek.
I'm Ben Wood.
I'm Colin Kale.
Zachary Arnold.
And Sam Wood.
Like to, let's have a hand for Pack 356 and Troop 87. Jenny Bushy is telling me that the Scouts would like their picture taken with the council. So we'll try to get Pack 356 and Troop 87 to come forward. And council, if you would join them for your photographs. Young men, if you'll be in the front row, and I might want my council behind you.
We're going to let you go first.
All right, gentlemen, Troop 87, you're going forward. Dippolito and Councilmember Orleans and your mayor. We were all Boy Scouts, and we appreciate all the efforts of the Boy Scouts. We get a lot of work done with our city and with the Eagle projects. And so when you get to that point, young men, if you're looking for Eagle project, if you'll come to me or the Roswell Rec Department, we've got plenty of projects in our parks to make sure we keep the Boy Scouts busy. Yes, Councilmember. Yes, we have a mother of an Eagle Scout, too.
And I was a Girl Scout.
Yeah, the Girl Scout.
Mr. Mayor, my great-nephew just became an Eagle Scout.
All right. There's a lot of support for scouting up here. I'm going to have to remember that next time. Campfire Girl. All right. Next on my agenda, it's my privilege to read the proclamation for the Roswell Black History Month, which will begin in February. We've been doing this every February for years now, and we have the largest celebration of Black history in the state of Georgia, and we've got a lot of great events. I'd like the members of this committee to come forward as I read this proclamation, and they'll be telling us more about Black History Month. Whereas the celebration of Black History Month was begun by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the son of former slaves, And whereas Black History Month has been celebrated nationally in America since 1926, and whereas February was designated Black History Month in recognition of black achievements that greatly impacted American history, and whereas the Historic and Cultural Affairs Division of the City of Roswell Recreation, Parks Historic and Cultural Affairs Department, working with a volunteer steering committee, will host the Roswell Roots Festival of Black History and Culture for the 12th year. And whereas the Greenway Community Group, the Roswell Regional Library, Barrington Hall, Bullock Hall, Smith Plantation, the Visitor Center, Ebony Stitchers Quilt Guild, Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church, and Soweta Street Beat Dance Theater are also participating. And whereas the 2013 Roswell Roots Festival includes 6 exhibits and 20 fun events, including African dancing, live music, storytelling, lectures, workshops, the Unity Concert, the Poetry Slam, a cornbread cook-off, and more. And whereas the Roswell Roots Festival celebrates the contributions of Roswell African American citizens past and present, now therefore I, Jerry Wood, City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim all of February 2013 as Black History Month and call upon all of you and our citizens to recognize this special celebration and celebrate culture through participating in these events. And who's going to speak on behalf of y'all? Come forward, Morgan Timmis.
I'll start. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much. We're so excited to bring you once again the Roswell Roots Festival of Black History and Culture. As you mentioned, it's our 12th annual year, and during this month of February, we're going to present an abundance of exhibits, entertainment, lectures, and concerts to celebrate our nation's and Roswell's rich African American history and culture. This will be our largest festival to date, with, in fact, 22 programs and events, plus 6 month-long exhibits. And some of the highlights I'm going to let some of the committee members describe for you, but we're going to do it a little differently this year. We're going to start at the end of the month and work backwards toward the beginning, and you'll understand why when we get there. But before I begin, I want to be sure and introduce all of the committee members. Gail Bohannon with the Groveway Community.
The founder of this event. Let's have a hand for Gail.
Groveway Community Group. Lou Conti, who is the retired director of the library, and Jenny Collier, who's the children's department manager at the library, Archer Holman, Marie Epps, Reverend Dr. Frank Lewis of Zion, Terry Shields of Pleasant Hill, Dottie with the Visitor Center, Jenna Sabile with the Teaching Museum, Philip Carroll with the Atlanta Jazz Preservation Society, and of course our staff members, Chuck Douglas, Robert Weinbarger, Pam Billingsley, and Jess Wells. So you have the brochure in front of you and you can take a look, but briefly, we'll be ending the month on the 24th with the Kumba Storytellers of Georgia, which will be presented by the Visitor Center at the Visitor Center. And then the 23rd, we'll have the Strange Demise of Jim Crow lecture with Dr. Curtis Graves, presented at the library. And then
the second annual Cornbread Cook-Off. Very excited about this event. It was a great success last year. We had the winner, Fickle Pickle, with their sour cream cornbread and pepper jelly. Table and Main entered with bacon and chive, cornbread with sorghum butter, and then Joe's Ragin' Cornbread from Oak Street Cafe. They were all the winners last year. We had 12 amateurs participate, so we're excited about that. We've actually got a new celebrity judge, Chef Sonia Jones of Sweet Auburn Bakery down in Atlanta. I don't know if you remember, she actually served President Bill Clinton her sweet potato cheesecake, and it was, he said, his favorite. So we are still accepting entries for amateurs to participate in the Cornbread Cook-Off, so please spread the word. And that's it.
Then, moving ahead, on the 22nd at Zion, they will be presenting And Still We Sing, a musical production. Then on the 21st, I know one of the mayor's favorites will be Slammin' in the Suburbs. We're doing it this year at the Roswell Historic Cottage, which we're very excited about, and we want to give a special thanks to Lee Walker, one of the Cultural Arts Board, who's helping to sponsor the prize money. And the North Fulton Drama Club volunteers will be there to help manage the concessions for us. On the 16th, we're going to have Soldiers to Remember, United States Colored Troops Traveling Museum presented at the library. And then on the 16th,
Then we're going to have some quilting going on. We're going to have learn to make a quilt star pattern. That will be for adults. And if an adult would like to participate and doesn't have a sewing machine, we're providing one. That will be in room 220. There's also going to be the Quilt Stories, an African American Quilts lecture. That will precede the adult class, and people can bring in their own quilt and learn about it, which will be kind of fun. And then for children, at 2 p.m. on the same day in room 220, they can make a fabric postcard, which is really neat because they can actually put a stamp on it and send to a relative or friend.
On the 15th in the afternoon, the library is going to be presenting a poetry performance workshop with Ayodele Heath, who's our MC for the Slam, for anybody who wants to practice for the Slam competition. And then that night, we're really excited, in conjunction with the Atlanta Jazz Preservation Society. I thought Philip Carroll was going to join us tonight. We're presenting Freddie Cole at the Cultural Arts Center. He's the younger brother of Nat King Cole. And he doesn't mind the reference, but he claims to be very different. With his whole quartet, it's going to be a fantastic night of jazz at the Cultural Arts Center. Then we will have on the 12th an art show and reception for our art exhibit in the Cultural Arts Center lobby by Lionel Daniels. And then
the best of all, Growaway Community Group. We'll be having our program at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center 3 o'clock, and it's not on Super Bowl Sunday, so I have this wager out that we have to have majority of men this year, not women, men, because it's not Super Bowl Sunday. And our theme is coming back again. We will have food vendors and jewelry vendors there before the program at 1:30, and we will have our second time around, Miss Shanita Morris, which is a Christian comedian, better known back when she was doing other kind of comedian, Chocolate. And we will have Musea Fairley from Atlanta Street Baptist Church, and the Word of Faith Youth Choir, Salted, will be our special guest there this year from Austell. And so if you don't have your tickets, please see me and I can get you one. $10 in advance, $15 at the door.
and several things on the 9th.
We kind of found a niche in genealogy. Last year we had about 90 people attend our workshop. This year we're doing Finding the Roots of Your Family Tree. February 9th at 2 o'clock at the Adult Rec Center on Grimes Bridge Road. And it's being presented by Melvin Collier, who has gained a lot of notoriety. He did the Who Do You Think You Are series, several things on that. So it should be a real interesting day.
Also on the 9th at Barrington, we're sponsoring West African Rhythms and Flavors. We'll start out with Sally Ann Robinson, who will be doing cooking demonstrations in the kitchen. She was a Gullah cook who grew up on Defusky, was actually one of Pat Conroy's students there. She has 2 cookbooks out. She'll be signing and selling those. And also on the lawn, we'll be having a group called Drum Rise, who will be doing drumming demonstrations. The first hour or so will be lessons, and then everyone's invited to stay and join in the drum circle. And they claim that even if you've never picked up an instrument, we can teach you to drum. I have a much better deal on tickets. Ours are free. Sorry, guys.
Also on Saturday, February the 9th at 2 p.m., we have celebrated African-American storyteller Josie Bailey of Atlanta. She'll be sharing the Brer Rabbit stories as told by the slaves to the Bullock Hall children in the mid-1800s. So come sit by the fire in our new Osage room downstairs in our lower level and hear the delightful stories of that clever rabbit who outwits everyone he meets. And it's free, but you have to make reservations.
And then we're revisiting our ever-popular tea and hat show. This year we're doing what we call our Afrocentric Fashion and Design Show. And it will be at noon with a wine and cheese reception that's on the February 2nd, and then with the presentation at 1 o'clock. And also through the month we have a wonderful exhibit on slave life on the plantation, utilizing a lot of Smith family artifacts.
And then our first event will take place this Friday evening. and it will be our fabulous Unity concert featuring the Soweto Street Beat Dance Theater, which you're going to get a little taste of right now. This year's Unity concert will take place at Pleasant Hill Missionary. So this Friday night, please don't miss it. It's the largest one ever also. We have 6 choirs. It's taking place at Pleasant Hill, so we'll have their choir, of course, and Zion's, and the Unitary Universalists, Roswell United Methodist, Cross of Life Lutheran, and the World Harvest Church. And in addition, our special featured guest, the Soweto Street Beat Dance Theater. And also that evening, 2 individuals will be recognized as Roswell Hometown Heroes, and the whole thing will be followed with a short reception. So we hope to see you at all of these wonderful events starting off this Friday. And Peter, did you want to say anything about?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the executive director of Soweto Street Beat. Soweto Street Beat was performing in the Olympic Games 1996 to represent entire Africa. We're so excited to be here in this beautiful Roswell city to promote the South African culture. We'll be at Centennial High School 9 a.m. on February the 1st. And then at 1:45 p.m. we'll be at Roswell High School. And at 7 p.m. we'll be at the Pleasant High Baptist Church to celebrate the Unity concert. And we thank you so much for Morgan been working so hard promoting the culture of Roswell, and invite Soweto Street Beat to come, and the Roswell people, they can learn, and they can go and visit in South Africa, because South Africa is yours too. It's a beautiful country. As you know, Mandela, Winnie Mandela, and Desmond Tutu, these are beautiful people, and we say thank you.
Peter, before you leave, my council cannot miss this photo op to get their picture taken with you and these young men. So, council, let's get our picture taken. If you'll join them, I don't know who it was that scheduled this, me and my council being out of town Friday night, so I'm afraid this council's not going to be able to hear you, and it's terrible, we're going to miss it. But they'll get their picture taken with you, and they're going to remember this opportunity, and we're glad to have you here. So, council, let's get our picture taken, even if we can't make Unity concert.
Oh, turn around. You can come inside. You can go down. Go down. You can come.
Let me get in here with Peter.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
Look forward to it, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Morgan, if you'll come back to the microphone for just a minute. Morgan Timmis. Now, I'm sure some of you were taking notes, but if the rest of you are like me and have a short memory,
Yes, the brochures are at the
there
back.
are brochures Outback. And where can they go online to get a calendar of these events?
RoswellRoots.com.
So if you'll type in RoswellRoots.com on your search engine, you'll find this calendar. And for those of you who see February as being an otherwise drab and cold month, in Roswell it's going to be a hot time, and we're going to have excitement all month, every day. And so stick around, enjoy Roswell, and enjoy our festival. It's going to be a great month. Thank you, Morgan, and thank you, committee, and thank you, Soweto Street Group. And it's going to be super. One more hand for this great organization. And we have a presentation of a flag, and I want to call on Councilmember Wynn. You're up to speed on this.
Yes, sir, and I'm going to turn it over to City Administrator Kay Love, and then I do have one email, if you would give me the opportunity to read it from an airman, if it's all right if I do that right now, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes,
thank
please.
You. As you all know, we did a goodies for the troops, and I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to thank the Roswell Rotary, the City of Roswell, the city employees and citizens who donated this. It started off as trying to get enough goodies for 81 boxes. My nephew is in Afghanistan, and it was for his troops, for his airmen. And I told him, I'm really hoping we can get 81 boxes. We packed 195 boxes. And the only reason we stopped is because we ran out of boxes. And that's the only reason that we had to stop. But what was so great about this is that the City of Roswell, they didn't know it was my nephew. And they went ahead and collected it anyway. But the city collected 1,500 pounds of goodies for the troops. But I wanted to do this real quick. This is from Staff Sergeant Jared Dubé, and he's in the Forward Operating Base at Tarin Kawat. He says, packages came in from the Roswell Rotary and City of Roswell today. I wanted to share a letter from Hannah. And another thing I'd like to do is thank the Kids Are Kids, Cottage School, and Roswell North Elementary, because they did do cards and letters and drawings to our troops. But this is from Hannah. Dear Madam, thank you so much for fighting so we can be free. I do not think I could even stand it if we weren't free. Well, I could, but would be very, very hard to do. It also sounds very hard to do that. I wish you luck. Love, Hannah. This is one of about 300 cards and letters, I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up, that we sent to our troops over in Afghanistan for Christmas. So I just want to thank everybody so much for what they did.
Let's have a hand for this group.
So, Mayor and Council, when I came back from one of my many meetings on Tuesday, I had a box on my desk, and that might not ever be a good thing, to open up a box that you receive when you're not in there. But anyway, I took a chance, and in it I found a wonderful thank you letter, which you have a copy of, in this very precious flag that was flown on September the 11th, 2012, over Bagram in Afghanistan, where Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Williams is based. And in that letter, he thanks the City of Roswell and certainly you for allowing us to partner with the Rotary Club of Roswell to collect all the goodies. And if it had not been for the City of Roswell staff and employees, we would not have had 195 boxes to pack, because alone we collected over 1,500 pounds. And there was a lot of friendly competition, and so we had a departmental challenge. And so with the flag, I'd like to ask you, we want a photo op with you as well, because the department heads and we'd like to get our picture taken with you and the flag so that we can send it back to Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Williams. And then also I'd like to recognize Recreation and Parks, because they collected the most by weight. So certainly Joe Glover and his staff need to get a separate picture made, so it's a lot of pictures tonight. So if you'd indulge us, we'd like to have our picture made.
Council, let's get our picture taken. They hate this. They hate this. I'm recommending the appointment of Jay Small to the Recreation Commission. Do I have a motion?
To approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn, second by Councilman Orleans. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands.
And he's in the audience also.
Passes unanimously. I have a recommendation for the appointment of Mike Martin to the Construction Board of Adjustment Appeals. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is that a second by Price?
Sure.
He didn't say anything.
I'm sorry. Was that by Councilman Eichelhart? Motion by Councilman Eichelhart, second by Councilmember Price.
No, I made the motion.
I thought I heard two voices down there. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon liaison to the Recreation and Parks Department, Councilman Jerry Orleans.
Thank you, sir. Tonight we want the approval of accepting a donation from the Roswell Youth Lacrosse Association in the amount of $30,000. We always like to accept donations, and this is actually a second one from this organization. So, Joe, you want to tell us all about it?
Yes, sir. Thank you. About 2 years ago, we made a deal with the Fulton County Board of Education to redo a field they had at Elkins Point. We went in and put in new sod, sprinkler system, and our lacrosse association at that time did not have their own field. They've been using everybody else's baseball, football, whatever we had. And they came to us and would like to have lights on that field. So they came up and basically determined that they would donate $60,000 in order to help light that field and complete that project. So in December of 2011, Lacrosse Club came and made a presentation of $30,000. They're back tonight to give us the balance of the additional $30,000, and I'd like to ask Mr. Tom Pratt, past president, to come forward, and Craig Fuller, our supervisor, and Jeff Knighton, our superintendent of athletics.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, this is our second installment of a $60,000 commitment that we made to improve Elkins Point Field. And while there are loads of booster clubs in the city of Roswell, and they all do a yeoman's work in promoting their cause, it's our pleasure to do this, to give the $30,000 to enhance the Elkins Point Field. The Roswell Youth Lacrosse Association is recognized in the Southeast as being one of the premier lacrosse programs in the Southeast, and it wouldn't be possible without the great program from the Parks and Rec. And one of the things you need to know is that the reason we get such accolades is because we are a city-run program and not a booster club-run program, and that makes all the difference in the world. These funds, the $60,000, comes from the annual lacrosse tournament that we have each year, which brings in about 121 teams and close to 10,000 participants every Mother's Day. And while you may think, oh my gosh, Mother's Day, what a dreary time, it is a festival for the kids, and everyone has a great time, and they have this great time in Roswell. And no one leaves with a frown on their face. It's just an incredible program and opportunity for the kids to come to Roswell and play lacrosse. And so thank you for all you do for Roswell, and thank you for all you do for lacrosse, but most of all, thank you for the Recreation and Parks Department. Can you tell I'm a little biased?
On behalf of the city, I want to thank the Roswell Youth Lacrosse Association for the second installment for a total of $60,000, for the program that they have, for the visitors that they bring to the city of Roswell, and for the enthusiasm and what they do for the youth of Roswell. So let's have a hand for the Roswell Youth Lacrosse Association and all the good work. Did we get a motion and a second on that?
No.
I think we,
I move for approval of accepting the donation.
Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that to the rest of the council. That was a tie. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll recognize Councilmember Rich DiPolito, liaison to the Admin Finance Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is approval of a resolution in support of the Georgia Downtown Renaissance Act. Ms. Lowe.
Thank you, sir. This piece of legislation, I believe, was introduced today, and since we first heard about it from the Georgia Municipal Association, I believe there's some 60-plus sponsors of this bill, and it's an effort to help revitalize, rebirth, renew Georgia downtown areas. There are statewide tax incentives involved for capital contributions and investments in buildings and owner-occupied buildings for both individuals and corporate. So this resolution indicates, should you pass it, our support of that, and then we would send a copy of this to the Capitol.
I am a big supporter of this. We heard about it, Lieutenant Governor Zell Miller supporting it. We've had several of our local representatives supporting this. They've already had 60 people sign on to this bill, and they are optimistic about its passage. They believe that it's, although there's a tax credit involved, the investment it will bring will more than offset the tax credit. I did have one question. They talked about it being within a district. Do we know how that is set and how that that district might be?
We do not. I have not seen the details of the legislation, but I'm sure it's something akin to downtown districts that are set through. We have a very large downtown district, those boundaries. So we'll see that as the bill moves through.
In addition to passing this resolution, I encourage the council and the citizens, when they see their legislators, to plug this Renaissance bill. Do we have a motion to approve?
Well, all of us in Roswell are much in favor of promoting redevelopment, so I move that we approve this resolution.
Motion by Councilman DiPolito, second by Councilmember Price. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time, my city attorney has reminded me that I skipped over the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Oh, we got a question down here. Councilmember Price.
I just wanted to move to extract number 3.
3's out of there. We'll be voting on 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. All in favor of 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Councilmember Wynn. Passes unanimously. 3 was with the admin department. We'll call that after we call the other agenda items. At this time, we're on to public safety. Councilmember Becky Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first of one of my items is the approval of an amendment to the IGA for the development and implementation of a unified radio system between Roswell and the other North Fulton cities, and budget amendment 3503210-01-28-12 for $842,000, and approval of an agreement with Motorola to begin Phase 1, which Sandy Springs signed on behalf of all cities in December 2012, and approval to amend the contract with Motorola to include Phase 2 of the project. After that, I'm going to turn over to Chief Grant and Captain Sweeney.
Thank you. In December 2012, you voted on an IGA that was for the North Fulton radio systems, which included the 5 North Fulton cities, including Johns Creek and obviously Roswell. After consideration, Johns Creek has decided not to participate in the project, so what you have before you today is the IGA minus Johns Creek, and also the price of the radio system has gone up for the city of Roswell because Johns Creek has declined to participate. We've gone from 5 cities to 4 cities. So now the cost is $5.12 million for the project. That's Roswell's share. The overall cost is $16 million for the project.
What is the life expectancy of these capital improvements?
I'm going to ask Captain Sweeney to explain the details of the project.
Life expectancy is a minimum of 10 years. The system we're on right now is approaching 20 years, and with normal maintenance, it should operate day to day, which it does with some problems because we can't get spare parts anymore. So basically, the system has outlasted its ability to have healing properties.
So this is a long-term investment. We'll be building towers that could be serving this city 20 years from now.
That is very true.
Other questions of council? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is obviously a significant increase from what we had when Johns Creek was involved. Is there anticipation that they may participate later on in the process?
Ms. Love may wish to speculate, but it would be speculation at this time.
It is speculation. Our anticipation is that at some point they will need a radio solution. Whether they would come in as a contributor or a subscriber would be up to the other cities who are contributors at this point.
Ms. Love, would that have to be a unanimous decision of the current
yes, sir.
members? So this council would have to approve the terms of their participation if they come in.
And would that give us an opportunity to recoup our extra cost?
I expect this council wouldn't approve it unless it did recoup our cost.
Very good. Thank you.
Other questions? Let's get a motion before we hear from the public. Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next one on my agenda is approval of amendments to Section 13.1.3, discharge of weapons of the Roswell Code of Ordinances. Chief Grant.
This ordinance makes several changes to the current ordinance for the discharge of weapons. The first thing it does, it makes the permit renewable annually. The second part is it actually recommended at the committee meeting was to clean up some language where the only time a person, if someone wants to discharge a firearm at a indoor facility, the language was somewhat ambiguous before, where you could read that the person still needed, the individual would need to have a city-issued permit to go to an indoor firing range. Section B cleans up that language where it seems to me it's very clear that the individual does not need an individual permit to discharge a weapon at an indoor firing range. Section 3 requires that if a person obtains written permission from a landowner to discharge their weapon on that property, they have to not only have written permission, which is what the previous ordinance states, that permission must be dated within 1 month of the date they're applying for the permit. The purpose behind that is to protect the property owner. If a person had given someone permission to discharge a weapon on their permit or on their property, and then later were to change their mind, there's no way for us to go out and to recoup or to reclaim that permit that the person has. This would allow us to allow the permit to expire, and then the person that wanted to discharge their weapon would have to get a new signed permission from the landowner, and obviously if that person did not want to grant that permission, then they wouldn't be granted that permission. So that's the whole theory behind requiring the annual permit and requiring the person to obtain new permission to obtain that, the permission to obtain the permit, or to obtain the permission for the permit to be issued to them. I'm not sure I made myself clear there, but
I think I understood your point.
And then the other, what it also does, it requires the person that's obtaining the permit to pay a $25 fee the first time they obtain the permit, and if they want the permit to be renewed, then the following year it would be $10 a fee for that permit. And the permit would expire on the date of issuance, so it'd be good for 12 months from the date it was issued, not by calendar year. And that's the changes to the ordinance.
I'd like Mr. Davidson to read the ordinance, and then following the reading, I'll ask council if they have any questions. Mr. Davidson, if you'd read the ordinance.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, Section 13.1.3, Discharge of Weapons of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Chapter 13, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended by deleting Section 13.1.3, Discharge of Weapons, in its entirety, and substituting therefore a new Section 13.1.3 to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the first reading.
Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some clarification, Chief Grant. Just so everybody knows that this ordinance was passed in 2005. Am I correct?
Correct.
And the only thing that we are changing is, again, the language about discharging at sharpshooters or wherever else we want to shoot in an indoor range.
Correct.
And adding the permit that has already been in the ordinance as an annual permit to help protect not only the person who's discharging the weapons, but also the property owner who gave the permission for them to discharge the weapons.
That is correct.
Am I correct on that one? Okay, great. And the reason that we're charging $25 is because, and I think this might be to City Administrator Love, is because just about every permit that's issued in the city, there is a fee, and that fee is helped for the administrative costs of doing the research and any background check, or anything that needs to be done for that permit. And the reason we're only going $10 after that is because all of that research has already been done. Am I correct on that, Ms. Love?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Because I've been getting emails about this, we're not changing this. This has nothing to do with how everything's working. It's just a protection for the person who is discharging the weapon, the person, the property owner who's given permission, and to help recoup some of the costs that the city does to issue these permits. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Orleans.
Whatever fees are tied in, We have normally done that separately as a resolution rather than putting it in the ordinance. Has that been considered for this particular ordinance?
It's included in this ordinance, however, we can pull it out and you can adopt it by resolution separately.
Other questions? Councilmember Price.
As I recall, this came up some years back, I guess it was 2005, in response to crossbows and deer, et cetera. So I'm wondering, and I know it's already in there, but we might want to revisit it, because it does say firearm, and it concerns me that there would be an annual permit to discharge a firearm in a city, and I'm just wondering if annually is too much in any case. I can get a driver's license for 10 years and a number of other things that don't require annual registration, and I know we talked about whether or not people get a reminder or whether they could easily get in violation, because a year goes by pretty quickly. And could you also, somebody clarify what background checks would be done, and if there is one that's required or legal?
Let's get a clarification first.
Okay.
On the annual permit we're talking about, is that for firearms or is that for discharging bows?
It's for discharging weapons. Now, but the only time a person can discharge a firearm within the city of Roswell is at either an indoor firing range, a police officer during the course of his business, or a property owner defending, or a private citizen defending their person or property.
I presume that does not require a permit.
That does not require a permit.
So this isn't addressing an annual permit to discharge a firearm under those circumstances?
That is correct.
So it really addresses annual permits to discharge something other than firearms?
That is correct.
And just a clarification there.
No,
I'm getting a little noise down here. That's the way I understood it.
That's not in there.
Did you disagree with my statement? I'm not sure.
Well, I disagree with my chief, which I don't do too often. What this does is does not allow any discharge of weapons except for those cases that the chief has stated without a permit.
Well, let's talk about their different kind of weapons. I think that was what I was trying to clarify for the public. If it is a firearm, as I understand it, Chief, that you can only discharge a firearm under the exceptions you mentioned.
That is correct.
And discharge of a firearm is not really regulated by permit in Roswell, because you don't have to have a permit to discharge your firearm to protect your home.
Correct.
Police officer does not have to have a firearm to discharge a weapon.
Correct.
And you don't have to have a weapon to discharge a firearm at a licensed firing range like sharpshooters.
That is correct.
So as far as firearms are concerned, the permitting is not applicable.
That is correct.
Does that clarify things?
Unless they're doing target practice.
I don't believe there's any provision for target practice in Roswell with a firearm.
Unless you're in an indoor firing range.
Exactly.
And that's at a license. So that is not, that does not require a permit either.
Correct.
It requires a license for the location. It's not, this permitting process is not applicable to firearms, is the point I'm trying to make. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Davids?
Well, it makes it unlawful to discharge a firearm except for those instances.
But the point is
that's correct.
Permitting is not really applicable to firearms.
Correct.
So the permitting is really applicable to other weapons, which includes pellet guns and bows and arrows, correct?
Correct. The ordinance reads air gun, BB gun, bow, or crossbow.
And firearm is.
So that is what we're actually permitting, are those weapons.
I'm not going to try to get into the interpretation, but the practical application, there's no permitting applicable to the firearms.
Correct.
All right, and I apologize if I confuse some people, but I tried to state that as clearly as I could. Councilmember Price, I know you may have had some other questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted, I guess it's not working. I just wanted to clarify that a person with a legal concealed carry that exercises his right to use that in a proper fashion, defending not necessarily himself, possibly somebody else, that they wouldn't then come in jeopardy of suffering the penalty itemized in number E.
That is correct. Has your question been satisfactorily answered?
Just by carrying a firearm, they would not be in violation of this ordinance.
No, but even if they discharged it in not defending themselves or their own property, but maybe in defense of somebody else or taking out a person who's trying to...
If you'll address that to Mr. Davidson, he's probably in a better position to answer a legal question than the chief. Mr. Davidson, if you could address the answer.
As long as it was justified under other laws, not our laws, they would be fine.
Yeah, there are laws that allow
Person or property.
a person to do that, and if they were within those laws, they would be okay. Our permit wouldn't, our ordinance would not supersede that.
Okay, again, I'd just like to address the issue of the fee and the length of time, if we might consider a longer interval between renewals.
That, you can make that in the form of a motion. That's not as much a question as a motion to council.
For the second reading.
We'll entertain amendments to this when we get to the point of accepting a motion.
Okay, this is the first reading, is it not? And I know
It's the first reading, and you can move to amend it at this time or at the second reading.
because I've gotten a number of emails today, very specific, that may need to be incorporated before the second reading.
Well, the thought is that with the 12 months, it protects the property owner. That's who we're looking at trying to protect. If you make that length longer, then you're just opening the property owner up, or a new property owner up, to someone.
Chief, I do have a question.
Sure.
Was this, has there been a property owner who felt he was affected by this, or his rights were violated? Was this driven by an example, or is this a hypothetical protection? Or has there been someone who said there was a problem, either a user or a property owner?
We're not aware of any, but since the ordinance was passed, we've issued 175 permits, and we don't know how many of those permits are still active permits. In other words, did somebody use them one time and have since discontinued the use of the permit, or how many of those people from 2005 are still utilizing their permits. And we also don't know, in quite a few of the permits, at least half of the people who have permits have permits to discharge their weapons on someone else's property. So to answer your question, we don't know.
Hear the answer. Let me see if I can repeat it. Chief, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. My question was, has this been prompted by a problem with a property owner or a specific instance where we had a problem? The answer was it was not prompted by a specific incident, but it was a concern that since this was
2005,
there have been 175 permits issued, and we don't know if that authority has continued for 7 years.
Correct.
It was a concern for when do these things ever expire, because we don't have the authority we don't have the resources to follow up and ask people if they wish to continue it or if they even still own the property.
Correct.
Thank you for that answer. Other questions council members may have. Councilmember Dunn.
I have a question on number 3. The written permission must be dated within 1 month of the applicant's submission for the permit. If you have a permit and you're doing whatever on your property, and then a friend of yours says, oh, now you can come over here 6 months later, how does that work?
At the time that you apply for the permit, you disclose you're either going to the permit gives you the right to discharge the weapon on your own property. If you want to discharge the weapon on someone else's property, at the time you get the permit, you bring written permission from the landowner demonstrating that, and you provide that to the police department.
Right.
And then the person would be issued the permit, and on the permit it would state that or list that property. I'm not aware that anyone has ever come back later and says, now we want to amend my license to add additional properties, but if they wanted to do that, we would allow them to do that.
Maybe we can put that in the wording somehow, because it seems kind of absolute.
Right. I don't know that's ever happened, but we would allow them to do that.
You can add that.
Other questions? At this time, I'll entertain comments and questions from the floor. If you'd like to have a question or comment, if you'd come forward and give us your name and address. Still no power. I presume we're still being recorded, though, visually?
Yeah, visually.
Yeah.
Yes, it says.
Please proceed. We're
Thank
not going
you,
to let
Mr. Mayor.
technology slow us down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. John Monroe, 9640 Coleman Road. I emailed each of you this afternoon with some comments on the proposed ordinance. I won't go through the entire list, but a couple things I wanted to emphasize. One, there's several aspects of the proposed ordinance that would be tantamount to regulation of hunting within the city, which the city is strictly prohibited by state law from doing. And secondly, there's no explicit discussion in the ordinance of what happens to those existing 175 permits. The implication from what Acting Chief was just saying is that they are being legislatively abolished or set to expire when in fact they were issued without expiration. I think that would constitute the deprivation of due process in violation of both the state and the U.S. constitutions. And as I also mentioned in the email, I think the city narrowly avoided litigation last time around by amending the proposed ordinance to what the current ordinance is to make it relatively benign. I think if this ordinance were passed in its current form, it's almost certain to result in litigation against the city. Thank you. I won't, like I said,
Let me ask you a question.
Certainly.
I see justification for getting permission to discharge a firearm on a bow on someone's property. I've got property and it's not posted. I'd like to know if someone's hunting on my property. I'd like to know that they had my permission. How would you believe that this should be? Who should make sure that this is not the folks aren't bow hunting on other folks' property without permission?
Well, there are existing state laws that regulate hunting on other people's property without their permission. There are existing state laws regulating criminal trespass. So I think there are existing state laws that will address that situation without the city also passing ordinances that it doesn't have the power to do.
Right. If my property's not posted, I grew up hating posted signs. I just have an objection to them philosophically. Posted signs, I tear them down every time I see them. I used to, I don't anymore. But if someone wanted to hunt on my property, bow hunt, under state law, if it's not posted, would they require my permission?
I'll confess that I'm not terribly well versed in state hunting regulations. I think there's some people here that are interested in speaking that are.
Answer that question later.
But my understanding is that it is illegal under state law to hunt on someone else's property without permission.
Thank you for that answer. I'll see if someone has a specific answer.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you for that answer.
All right. Thank you.
Who else would like to comment or have a question? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
I'm Bob Coombs. I'm 78 Thompson Place. And I've got a couple things I can kind of clarify as far as hunting on your property. The state requires you to carry written permission if the property is posted. So if you put that no trespassing sign up or no hunting sign up that you despise, then they would have to have your written permission on their person while they were hunting. If it's not posted, you still have to have the landowner's permission to hunt. So I hope I cleared that up. I think I kind of represent we passed this ordinance and I've seen firsthand a dramatic increase in the whitetail deer population. A while back, I think I got a call from you, Jerry, and I think Betty had called you and asked what's being done to control the deer population in Roswell. And as you may remember, I replied, nothing. There's no one... This ordinance, the way it reads right here... Can I use this?
This is not working.
Huh?
We have no power.
Oh, you got no power? If you read Section D on the original ordinance, it says, any person discharging without the permit, I'm sorry, if you don't have your permit, or if the target leaves the property, you're in danger of having your permit automatically revoked and shall not be eligible for a permit to discharge your bow and arrow for 5 years. And there's a $2,000 fine that could be attached to that. You know, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, Johns Creek, Milton, Alpharetta, Norcross, Cobb County, Marietta, Kennesaw. There's no one in the state that puts this, that unincentivizes harvesting a doe like the city of Roswell. And coincidentally, what's happened is we're not going to shoot a doe in the city of Roswell. We can go to Sandy Springs. They welcome us over there. The same deer cross the river, so I can catch a doe over there. Don't have to pay the fine. Don't have to go through the risk. A big buck's a different story for hunters. We take the risk. Because there is a risk of that animal leaving the property. No matter how... The larger the property, the smaller the risk. The smaller the property, the greater the risk. But I think now I'm seeing herds of 50 deer at a time. In 7 years, we've gone from seeing occasional deer to seeing huge quantities of deer. And that's because we're not going to shoot a doe in the city of Roswell. Doesn't make sense. I think really we're doing you a favor, and this says, we're going to penalize you. And that's not right. That's not in line with what the state wants to do and is trying to do. In 2002, they increased the amount of deer we could take from 8 to 12. They want us to shoot 10 does per season to try to get this under control and $2. They recently had meetings that tried to increase it to unlimited, meaning shoot as many does as you want all season. I was at that meeting, and one of the guys turned around to the entire group of 1,000 people and said, how many people here have shot 10 does? And 2 people raised their hands out of all that group. Because it's hard to do. It costs $35 for your bow and for your arrow that you typically lose. It costs you $80 to go process a deer. That's $135. I'm not going to waste $135 and risk $2,000, lose my permit for 5 years to do the city of Roswell a favor. I can go to Sandy Springs. I've got 30 different properties. A lot of people here that I hunt with hunt the same properties. Now so I think really what should happen here is I'd like to see the city of Roswell get in line with all of our neighboring cities and let the state handle it. It's not our business to be in the hunting business. It's not our business to check in. Well, I believe it'll be a bookkeeping nightmare to try to make heads or tails of whose permit is what. I've dealt with Adrienne on so many different permits. I've got a whole wallet of them. Honestly, she's never got it figured out. She doesn't know the laws. She tells people that it's okay for you to go hunt with your kid, and a lot of misinformation going on. I think the state said this last time. The state needs to run hunting. I'm not opposed to what you guys propose about the firearm ordinance. I think that's pretty sound. But as far as regulating hunting in Roswell, I think we need to let the state do it. I think we need to really incentivize, if anything, especially since we've gotten to this point where there's just so many over the last 7 years now. It's gone crazy. Remember, Kent, we had 30, I think it was 40 in 2000 and, I can't remember the year. It was the year before, so 2003. There was a few more in 2004. I talked to a fella, and we're pulling the police reports to find out how many recorded deer vehicle collisions there are. But there's a fella who gets he's a tow truck operator, he gets the calls, he goes out and responds when they need to euthanize a deer, because it's quite a bit of paperwork, as I understand, for a police officer to fill out when he discharges his weapon. Easy to give this guy a call, zip right over, shoots the deer, gives them for hunters to the hungry. He told me that he shot euthanized 70 deer this year.
In what jurisdiction?
In Roswell. You know, I understand somebody in Horseshoe Bend shot a deer and it ran through somebody's yard. Well, you know what? And it was bleeding. Well, deer attack deer. Bucks will attack does. Bucks will attack other bucks. They bleed. We see them bleed all the time. I've cleaned deer and found their tines buried inside the loins of a doe. They get hit by cars. They hurt people. They hurt lots of property. They do lots of property damage. I think it's time for common sense to prevail here, and let's get out of the hunting business. I'd love to see to have a full-time Fulton County or a North Fulton County DNR. I noticed you gave $60,000 to one of the schools over here, $30,000 to another school. How about let's put some money to the state? If you want to really help the deer population, let's encourage people to hunt deer. Heck, we got that much money? Let's pay any hunter who shoots a doe $135 to pay for the processing, pay for his arrow. Let's donate some money to the state for our own North Fulton DNR officer. They're very short-handed. I just think we need to get out of this whole mess here. I mean, it's chock full of holes. It's not healthy to our deer population, and I represent the deer. You know, I love white-tailed deer, but I love them as a species, and so I'm looking out for them as a whole. And this ordinance does nothing but hurt deer. I had a conversation with Mike Barr, who's the head of DNR law enforcement. He said, "Don't worry about your deer, Bob." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "In 7 to 10 years, there won't be any more deer." I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Epizootic hemorrhagic disease, blue tongue, black leg disease is already wiping out our deer." I think we need to get on the bandwagon and help our deer population and encourage hunters to hunt them and not penalize them, but reward them. We're doing City of Roswell a favor. I think we need to be treated that way. You guys got any questions for me?
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned that there's could be a $2,000 fine. Is that the discretion of the judge, or where is that penalty specified?
Well, in what is it? In your municipal code, yes, it's 1.1.3. That's what sets that. And I think
Can you
that's
read
up
that code section for us?
I don't have that code section.
Mr. Davidson,
Mr.
what does
Davidson?
that code section say?
It's in the discretion of the judge.
Right.
It's a penalty of up to $2,000.
Well, let's face it. If I got accused of this, I would certainly bring my attorney, so it's going to cost me money there. Again, that's not rewarding the hunter. If he's a poacher, haul him off. Prosecute him. Let the state handle it. It's not our business.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may I, real quick?
Councilmember Webb, you have a question?
Yes, because what I'm hearing from Mr. Coombs is hunting. This has nothing to do with hunting. It's discharge of weapons. So I would like to have Mr. Davidson just clarify that. We're not saying that you can't hunt a deer. We're not saying that you can't do that. What we're doing is a discharge of weapons permit. The state, hold on. You said for the city to do something about the poachers. We don't do that. That's DNR.
Right.
That city has nothing to do with that. But anyway, I would like to have Mr. Davidson clarify that for me, please.
Well, that was very specific in the original drafting of this ordinance, which you were a part of, and so was I. We met with the State Attorney General's office. We went through this line by line, and we said, we're not regulating hunting, we're regulating the discharge of the weapon. So that's not changing in this.
I understand, but the part that says if the target, if the arrow, the target, or a piece of the target leave the property unreasonably or reasonably, I can't remember what that one was, then you could be guilty, prima facie evidence. That's the problem. That makes it where people are not going to want like I said, I'm not into the minutiae of the law, but I represent the deer. and we need to harvest deer to get the population under control. We're not.
Mr. Combs, we're not telling you that you cannot do that.
I understand that, but that part of the ordinance de-incentivizes our willingness to...
Mr. Coombs, you have made your point.
Okay.
Ms. Wynn, you have made your point.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
How y'all doing tonight? I'm Kevin Anglin, 345 Hembry Road. I was born and raised here in Georgia. My dad has a lot of land here that he purchased 50 years ago. I've been bow hunting in Roswell since 1999. The only spots I do have to discharge my bow and arrow or my crossbow is in Roswell. I also have a 13-year-old son, and we try to do everything legal. The laws change every year. It's really hard to keep up with it. What I'm concerned about, is I've already paid a lot of money. I went down to the police station with my son to get my 13-1-3 cards. And the lady there told me that, my son, who is now 13, and he went through Hunter Education Safety Program at 8 years old, to get a card from the city of Roswell at the police department, you have to come with a Hunter Education card. You also have to come with your driver's license and written permission from the landowner. When I asked them about my son issuing him cards, they said, no, we don't issue him cards. He's issued under you. And my whole thing is that, a lot of people are going through hard economic times right now. And the way I look at things, that's putting food on my plate. And winter's a real bad month for me in work. It really is in the line of business I do. And for me to have to pay $25 and then a $10 renewal fee every year, I don't believe that's fair. I believe that money could go to something a lot better than that. And like that would have to be, would that be through my son too? Would he also have to pay a $25 and then a $10 too? And like everybody's saying, background checks. Well, I have never been background checked on a 13-1-3 card at all. Nobody's ever background checked me on any of them, and I probably have 7 to 8 of them. And I'm not also a whitetail bow hunter. I'm also a coyote hunter, and there's a big coyote problem in Roswell. Well, a whitetail season lasts from September to January 31st in Fulton County. They've only extended so many counties, and they're bow only. Well, I hunt year-round with a bow and with a crossbow for coyotes. My neighbor at Hembry Road, she's a 68-year-old woman. She's having trouble walking. 3 years ago, she was outside with her poodle. 2 coyotes came up, grabbed her poodle, took it in the woods, and killed it right in front of her eyes. The lady's so scared now, she's got a little Shih Tzu now. She will not let. She won't even walk on her property no more because she is scared. When my mom was living at 345 Hembry Road with me, she's 78 now. This probably happened when she was 76 years old. She was walking her schnauzer in the backyard. My mom actually got chased in by a buck in rut. And if you could only imagine, a woman of that age and having a rutted up deer chase her back into her home. So I'm not just in the woods during deer season. I'm in the woods year round. I have people offering me in neighborhoods like Litchfield, other neighborhoods like Brookfield West, offering me to pay them, for them to pay me to come in and get rid of some coyotes. They've all called the Roswell police in these situations, and the Roswell police has told them there's nothing they can do about it. Call a trapper. One lady, for instance, called a trapper. He wanted so much money she couldn't afford it. All these missing cat, dog signs, little missing cat and dog signs, half of them aren't missing. Most of them are dinners, and they're by coyotes. And we're overpopulated with those here too. They're becoming a nuisance. I heard of a story down at Lita Thompson Park where actually a lady was jogging her dog, and 2 coyotes came up to her and started attacking her and her dog. And for me to pay $25 My dad owns a lot of land here in Roswell. We own a lot of land here in Roswell. We're already paying up the gazoo in taxes. And I feel that would be very unfair for us to have to pay $25 and then a $10 renewal fee every year. Is that going to go for my son too, who's 13 years old, who does not have a job at the present moment, who's attending Elkins Point Middle School?
I couldn't answer that question.
No.
Mr. Anglin, you need to wrap up now. We've got a 5-minute time limit. But before you sit down, Mr. Davidson, if you're a minor, do you also and you're hunting with your parent or guardian, do you also have to have a separate permit?
No, they can't get a permit, but they are under his permit.
Yes.
So I guess you're saying here's my question. If you are a minor hunting with a parent or guardian, do you need a permit if your guardian or parent is permitted?
No.
So he would not need a permit.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
you
sir.
for your time.
Who'd like to speak next? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
I am John Bridges from 1370 Riverside Road. I'm a property owner, and I'm here to do anything to keep Bobby happy, shooting the deer, bow
Can you
hunting.
speak up, please? The microphones are not working. You have to speak up.
I just want to make Bobby happy. It's great that he's shooting deer, and at the end of every deer season, I plead with him to shoot more does, because there are just so many. The female has 1 when she's young, and 2 when she's older, and 3 the next year, and those 3 start having babies, and it's just, I've seen 25 deers prancing through the woods, and this year it's been particularly bad with car accidents in the front yard. One of those deers, I got a call from the Roswell Police Department early one Sunday morning and said, this is just a courtesy call. We're dispatching someone to put down the deer in your front yard. And exactly what happened. They came out and put it down, but I noticed that they crossed right from my yard, across the street to go across the river, and there's been 4 deer splats on that road just this past year, and I haven't seen that before. So anything that these hunters want, and I like the ordinance the way it is. I just, if they want to tweak it a little bit, that gives them the opportunity to shoot more deer, shoot more does, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir. Come forward.
Thank you. My name is David Smith. I live at 105 Oak Knoll Way in Roswell, and I do want to clarify I am a hunter, but I don't need to speak on behalf of hunters. There's enough of that going on here tonight. But I will speak for the kids here in Roswell, because I think that the ordinance in particular is making it harmful for us to take the children of Roswell and introduce them to the outside world. It's making it that much more difficult to do so. I have a 7-year-old son, and if I want to take him out into my 1-acre lot and shoot a BB gun at a Coca-Cola can to teach him some skills and to get him away from the screen where the average kid spends 7.5 hours a day, I not only have to have a permit from my city, but now I'm going to have to pay a fee and renew that every year. I can buy a $17 BB gun at Target, but I can't take it in my yard and use it without spending what could be hundreds of dollars in permits and renewal fees to get that kid outside. So I think about that photo op that you had here at the beginning of the night, where you sat out here with these great Cub Scouts who work hard to spend their time outside, and they're learning great skills. Not a single one of these kids can go out into their backyard with their dad and shoot a BB gun to learn how to do that with his father.
Shoot a BB gun.
Well, father's got to go and pay a permit to you for $25 and then get a renewal fee every year to do that. I appreciate what you're saying.
I agree with you.
But at that point, when that BB flies over one fence, or we have have some misguided accident, now we've got a up to $2,000 fine that father could pay too. So the hunting argument aside, I'm looking out for the kids in our city. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, public hearings. Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Good evening. Kendall Golightly, 8380 High Tarn in Sandy Springs. Avid outdoorsman. my passion for moving in this area. I grew up in the Marietta, Roswell area, and we weren't fortunate enough to have white-tailed deer, coyotes, and a lot of wildlife like there is now. Now it's become a problem. I live over in Sandy Springs. The city of Sandy Springs is in open arms when it comes to allowing hunting and introducing kids into the outdoors. I just wish that when Roswell does continue discussions about this ordinance, that they do keep in mind that we are doing a service to the city. In order to reduce the herd, you're either going to have to bring in sharpshooters or you're going to have to rely on your citizens here in town. And my daughter is 5 years old in May. She's already shooting a crossbow in Sandy Springs, and I will be taking her hunting next year in Sandy Springs. This is something that I don't feel should be put upon the city to manage. I feel this is for the state to handle. If you guys feel it necessary to charge a fee for these permits, I'd like to see at least 50% of those fees going back to wildlife management. When I buy a hunting permit from the state, or a hunting license, or a federal duck stamp, that goes back to wildlife. I don't think that it's fair that all that money that you guys just want to take for the city goes back to an ordinance that is already taken away from state law.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Public hearing's closed. This is the first reading. There'll be a second reading. When would the second reading be? Do we know?
February 11th.
February 11th, there'll be a second reading of this ordinance. Before we entertain a vote and any amendments from council, I'd first entertain... Mr. Davis, have you already read this ordinance? He has read it. At first, before we entertain a motion, I'd like to entertain any comments or further questions from council. Councilmember Price.
Again, could we clarify the actual effort required on the part of staff to process one of these applications? They review the...
Ms. Price, to clarify, if you'd like to know the process, we can hear directly from the chief if you have a question.
Okay, so thank you.
We don't actually do a background check like a criminal history check. The laws relating to weapons are actually firearms, and we don't regulate the firearms by the permit, so there's no reason for us to actually do a background check. The fee would be to cover the time of the staff to actually complete just taking the application and going over it with the applicant and just making sure that everything is prepared adequately on the application. There is no background check done on the applicant.
They do have to produce evidence.
They have to provide
of
a driver's license showing that they have to provide some type of identification showing that they are who they claim to be. Typically, that's a driver's license.
But we don't ask them for the proof of having training?
Yes.
And a hunting license if you're hunting.
Typically, what they will ask for is...
Hold on, let's not hear from the floor. Chief, if you can...
What is required additionally is proof of who you are, some type of identification, but also certification of some type of safety training for the weapon.
So you'd have to have training, some certificate of training for the weapon in which you're getting permitted for.
Correct.
And a driver's license. And a permission from the property owner.
If you're not going to discharge the weapon on your own property, you would need a written permission. If
you're going to discharge it on your own property, do you have to prove, how do you prove ownership of the property?
You don't.
You don't. You just say you own it.
You say it's your property.
Certificate. I say I own it. Here's my ID.
Right.
Here's my training.
This is where I'm going to hunt. I own the property, and then that address or location will be on the permit.
And then do we have to send that anywhere, or is it all internal?
No. It's all internal.
So the cost of doing that is what, copying four
staff time.
Staff time and copying 4 evidences, and we create a file. Is that
right? And actually, the the actual cost is the same whether it's the first time or the second time. It was just agreed that the cost for the second permit would be less than the first permit, but the actual time would be the same.
And then, does the certification of the safety course expire, or does that have to be produced again?
I'm not an expert, but I believe that's a one-time education.
Other questions or comments from council before we entertain a motion? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to clarify some things. Again, this is not about hunting, it's discharge of weapons permits. So the gentleman who's hunting the coyotes, God bless you, I'm glad you're doing it. I have him in my subdivision. But you can get permission from Lynchfield or whatever subdivision. That goes on your original permit. It does not cost you any more money. As it comes from the deer, I have a good friend of mine. He hunts deer, and I got deer meat in my freezer. So it's not that I don't want you to do that. This is not regulating anybody to hunt, because we cannot do that. That is state. That is not us, that is state. What we're doing, we can protect the person who's discharging the weapon and protect the property owner to make sure that they're in agreement that that property can have a discharge of weapons. If that's discharging on a deer or a bullseye, that's what it is. This unreasonable leaving of the target, I know about deer. Like I said, I come from a hunting family, and when you hit a deer with a bow, not like a rifle, they run. They have adrenaline. To me, and the chief and I've talked about this, I don't consider that an unreasonable leaving of property of a target. It's just nature. That's what happens. This is just to tighten up the ordinance that we already have. I should not say tighten, clarify some of the parts of this ordinance. If we don't do the fees, I was just trying to help with the administrative cost. That's not a deal breaker for me. We can look at that for second reading. But again, y'all understand we're not regulating hunting. That is the DNR. It's just to make sure that the people who are discharging weapons on a property has that permission from that property owner or the subdivision or wherever else they're going to be hunting. Thank you.
I agree with that.
We're not entertaining comments from the floor right now. Other comments or questions from council? Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Thank you. Two things on number 3, the addition of the written permission dated within 1 month of the application submission for the permit.
We can look at that.
That just seems like too much, because if you do have something that came up during the 8th month and you had a new property that you want to go to, you missed that until the next year. It doesn't make sense to me to have that. It should just be during that 12 months.
Well, the thought behind giving 1 month is if the person had gotten permission from a landowner to discharge that weapon, they wouldn't have to that day run down to the police department and get the permit. That'd give them a month from the date they got it signed to go get the permit.
Right.
If they were to find other pieces of property they wanted to discharge their weapon on after they were permitted, they would be allowed to come back down, provide the written permission from the landowner showing that they had that permission, and that could be added to their permit with no additional cost.
That's not what this says, then.
What's that?
That's not the way I read this. It says must be dated within 1 month of the applicant's submission for the permit. So if we clean that up to where it does what you just said, that's fine.
Right. Well, that thought was for during the application of the initial permit, or the renewal of the annual permit.
Permission, and after that you can't. So
right.
That's where
we can clean that up.
Second, on number 9D, which is the fee. I'm generally okay with the annual, but I agree. I think that as few as we do, and I guess you could make this argument for any fee that we charge, but don't want to be any more onerous than we have to. I know Mr. Coombs can't believe I'd say those words, but we are onerous to some extent. We shouldn't be any more than we need to be. So I don't want to have the parents with BB guns having to come down and pay $25 every year for that. I'm okay with the permit side, but I'd prefer we not have the fee.
Other questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Orleans.
Chief, I would also like to see, before the next reading, some information about some of the surrounding cities on what they're doing and how they're handling it.
My comments I've never believed that we need to regulate BB guns. I think, I don't see a need to regulate a BB gun. I've been shot with a BB gun. I've shot people with a BB gun. I don't think that's appropriate conduct with a BB gun, but regulation isn't going to stop that. But I don't think regulating BB guns is where we need to go. I think when it gets to pellet guns, they can be pretty powerful, but BB guns, I'm not sure about. I believe it's appropriate to require a permit to hunt on somebody's property, but I don't see a need to do that every year. I can see a reason not to do that in perpetuity from time immemorial, but I would like to see a much longer term than 1 year. As a property owner, 4 or 5 years would be reasonable to me, but not in perpetuity. So I think if you said every 4 or 5 years you needed to get a permit, I think you would solve the problem there. Also solve the problem of the pain in the ass of getting the permission and going down to and submitting all of this. And
The pain in the what?
Pain in the pistol. Sometimes it's good not to be recorded.
It is.
So I would encourage us to look at the BB gun restrictions and look at extending the term. And finally, Councilmember Wynn, I agree with you that if someone shoots a deer and it runs off the property, which they're inclined to do, we should not penalize them. On the other hand, the way the ordinance is written, the effect is telling the people out there that there are no standards of what is unreasonable or not. So I think we need to make languages clear so that if someone takes a clean shot and the deer runs off the property, that the law is clear enough that they don't face having to be prosecuted for it. So I think, given your interpretation, I think the language needs to be cleared up, because as a lawyer I could see how there are really no standards. So I think we need to make it clear that to say that if just because the deer didn't cooperate, I don't think there should be a $2,000 fine.
No problem.
Councilmember Diamond.
We maybe just have as a requirement of the permission that the property owner give an expiration date, and then they can decide how long they want it to be for?
You could, yes.
Well, if there is no expiration date, I think you need
We need one.
a time period, whether it's 5 or 10 years.
When you get it, if that's part of what we require.
That's going to be a county nightmare.
And one last comment, I think we need to make a look at the effective date of this, because some of these property owners are difficult to reach, and you would want to make sure that this isn't effective 30 days. You want to say there's a reasonable period of time to get these things re-upped, so that these permits aren't all immediately terminating. I think there's some more work to be done on this, and I would encourage council to continue to look at this and encourage the bow hunting community and the BB gun community to address your council members on this question. Councilmember Orleans.
Did we clarify what happened to permits already out there that fully grandfathered, or what would happen?
No, I don't think we clarified
No,
that.
that's on the list.
David, you wish to try to clarify, or is that going to be
We're going to look at
clarified?
it.
Currently, it's not addressed, but we'll look into it for the next reading.
Because there's nothing in here saying that anybody that's already got a permit's got to come and get a new one, is it?
All right. Given the number of questions and the number of comments raised at this thing, there is a lot of work to do on this ordinance. Is this coming to a work session before it comes to council?
We can.
Yes.
I think that I think we're going to need more comment and more input before we bring this to a second vote, and I think that can be done at committee. That'd be wonderful. Kay, if we put this on committee, when will this be coming to committee?
February 12th, Tuesday, 5 p.m., room 220, City Hall.
Please place that on the agenda.
Too much else on the 12th. That's the water tank and the plant.
Well, there may be too much, but let's say this needs to come for further discussion before it comes to council. I'm encouraging council to do that.
There's no hurry.
Councilmember Price.
I'm failing at this point to appreciate why we need this at all. It's sounding like there's a consensus that a fee is unreasonable. It's sounding like it's onerous to have to come back to get a permit on a rather frequent basis. We've already addressed the issue of the written permission of the first property you might be using, and we were told that there haven't been any problems related to the current ordinance. It costs us money every time we change an ordinance to file it and get in the whatever thing that makes us keep everything up to date in the cyberspace. So is it worth it to be monkeying with this unless we address those issues, which are the overpopulation of the deer? And unless we do that, I don't see any point to moving forward with this at all.
All right, we have a number of different opinions. Any further comments before we entertain a motion? No more comments from the floor, gentlemen. Your next opportunity for comment will be at the work session, or directly you can either email or call your council members. Councilmember Wynn,
Yes, sir.
are you prepared to make a motion?
If you tell me I have to.
No, you do not have to make a motion. I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
The floor is yours if you
Yes,
wish to
I
make
am
a
going.
motion.
I'm going to make a motion for staff and the city attorney to look at the written permission for that must be dated within 1 month. To look at that wording. Also look at the wording about unreasonably leaving the property. Also look about the omission of BB guns out of this and when it shall take effect. And I also think we can look at probably pulling the fees out and making that a resolution if we would like to, and not have it in the revised amendment. But all of that will be coming back to committee on February the 12th, 2003, instead of the second reading being on February 11. That's my motion.
Well, as I understand your motion is for further study, but not not a motion to. I did not hear a motion to pass the first reading.
No, I am not making. I am making a motion to pass the first reading, so we can go to second, but pass the first reading, but with the stipulation it goes to committee on February 12th before it comes back to council.
You've clarified it. Thank you. We have a motion to pass the first reading with a request for further study. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Diamond. Councilmember Eichelhardt.
I would like to suggest we not make it part of the motion to come back on the 12th, that if it works for that, great, but if it's in the motion, I have to vote against it.
I'm sorry, what now? I'm sorry?
If it comes back on the 12th, there's the water tank and thing is going to be such an issue. To add this, we know it's going to be a lot of time and discussion. We're setting ourselves up for a bad situation. So if the date is set up in there, I'll have to vote against it because of that. But
Well, then may I ask if it would be all right with mayor and council to add it to the Transportation and ComDef committee instead of waiting for another 6 weeks for it to come back?
Y'all make, my suggestion is
We can work it out.
just study this thing, because you've got a lot of other issues, and not pass this first reading until you get a little closer to something that you have a consensus on. That's my recommendation.
Well, the only
But we do have a motion and a second to pass it with those conditions. Councilman Orland.
I'm in agreement with Kent. I was just going to make a motion to defer the topic for further study. Comes back a certain date, comes to a certain committee meeting when it's ready, when it's available, when we've investigated all these different points. So I'm amending the motion to defer.
Well, that's not
I don't
not
want to
amendment as much as a motion to defer. We have a motion to defer. Do we have a second on the motion to defer?
Second.
Second on the motion to defer.
Mr. Mayor, I don't like open-ended dates, so I would like to have it come back in the 30 days or 60 days, so this doesn't fall in a black hole. Let's get it settled once and for all.
Then you can vote against the motion to defer.
Unless I can talk to Mr. Orleans into giving me like a 60 days or whatever. I know it doesn't work.
I don't know if I'm on or off here or whatever. Recording. Two things. If you pass the first resolution tonight and we put it to a future committee meeting and we don't have anything solved, you don't have the timing done for the second reading. So I'm basically saying we've got a lot of issues here to look at in more detail. Kent brought up an issue with the next committee meeting. I don't think we need a date. I mean, there's no rush on this. We've had it in existence for
7 years.
8 years.
7 years, 8 years, whatever. So, yeah, my motion's just to defer it for further study, and I'm sure it'll come back. I'm sure you won't let it linger on the vine for the next 7 months. So, no, I guess I don't see designated a specific time.
Okay.
So that's the motion in the second, I guess.
Okay.
Councilmember DiPolito.
My only comment on that is, in fairness to the people who are here tonight and who are tracking this issue, they may want a date so they know when to come back.
Oh, they'll know.
Well, it'll be a date. They'll know about it.
They'll know.
It'll be a date. How, Ms. Love, if there is a motion to defer, I'd like a motion to defer to a certain date or to a committee meeting.
March.
Well, June.
All right, to committee meeting no later than March.
So it'll be, just for the benefit of the public, Ms. Love, if we defer this into the March committee meeting, what date would this come back?
I think it's March 12th. March
So,
12th, 5 p.m.
I'm interpreting this as a motion to defer this subject to further discussion based upon the direction given by Councilmember Wynn and the questions raised by council to March, the March committee meeting.
And I'll second that.
I think we've got a consensus here. Councilmember Price.
Just a question, are there any hunting seasons that could be affected by this?
No, it's
Nope.
over.
Yeah, is there any urgency with respect to
But it
hunting
doesn't
season?
change it. It doesn't
It
change
stays
it.
the same.
It stays the same.
Current ordinance is still there, yeah.
No,
Right,
but it doesn't change the ordinance. They still can do it under the old ordinance.
They could come and make an application under the current permits to remain in effect, and they could come forward and ask for a new permit on the current ordinance.
I'm talking about incentivizing shooting certain populations.
No.
Is there a hunting season on coyotes, for instance? I mean, I guess there isn't.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Deer season ended this.
All right, as I understand it, we have a motion to defer
31st of
this
January.
until the next committee meeting in March. And at that time, the staff has a lot of questions in which council has raised, and we have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor of the motion to defer passes unanimously. Next agenda item.
Yes, sir. I got one more. Approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract for the purchase of a dual-purpose canine unit with Vigilant Canine Services International in an amount not to exceed $11,200. Chief Grant.
I believe back in October, you approved for the police department to purchase a canine. The amount was $18,000. We placed that out to bid, and we had 5 bids. The one that was selected was Vigilant Canine Services International in the amount of $11,200. What made them so significant, in addition to the price, is that they're the only company that offers a 5-year physical guarantee and a workability guarantee on the canine, which means if the dog becomes not necessarily injured on the line of work, but there's some defect with the dog, they'll replace the dog within 5 years, which is just exceptional.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn, second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Does anyone in the audience have any questions about the canine service contract? Any further discussion by council?
And we can make sure he can carry a weapon.
All in favor, raise your hands.
Just a BB gun.
Passes unanimously.
Comes with a BB gun.
Which brings us to Councilmember Kent Eichelhardt with the Environmental Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the next item is to approve the name of the groundwater well filtration plant, the Leonard Groundwater Filtration Plant, in honor of Water Operations Manager Mike Leonard. And if he were here, then this would have been early, because we would hate to have him sit through this. But since he's not, we will, doesn't matter, just do.
He left, thank you. If you will indulge me for 30 seconds, I would just like to remind you that tomorrow at the Recycling Center, we will be raising the flag that has flown over the U.S. Capitol, thanks to our Congressman, Tom Price. We will be recycling the flag, which we felt was appropriate. 11:30 tomorrow, a brief ceremony. And I think it's especially fitting that Congressman Price and our own council member, Dr. Price, are Adopt a Road volunteers and participate very much in our recycling program. So I commend that for your presence. On to the business at hand. We will be dedicating on February the 12th our groundwater filtration plant, and Alice has recommended, and I concur wholeheartedly, to ask you to name that in honor of Mike Leonard, our water operations manager, who was pretty much single-handed in getting the arrangements made for us to be involved in the groundwater business. And as you know, Mike is extremely well known around the state and around the country for his work in the water field, and we just think that it's appropriate to name this facility that will be for the water system in his honor.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Orleans.
It sounds weird calling it the Leonard Groundwater Filtration Plant. I was thinking it should be the full thing, Michael Leonard Groundwater Filtration Plant.
Yeah.
The Leonard just kind of hangs out there, and it's not.
That's an excellent point. Mike, in fact, some time ago when we first drilled looking for water and did not find it, he said he was afraid the mayor was going to dub that Leonard's Loser. But so I think that's an excellent point, and I would be totally open to changing that designation.
Thank you.
Councilmember Price.
I think that's a good idea. Would it be his full name or a nickname, or how would you suggest that?
My thought would be to check with him. He's pretty universally known as Mike, but of course his name is Michael. As
long as it's not just Leonard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What would you prefer, I guess?
That's what I'm saying. I want to check that with him. I don't know.
Well, I will move to approve the whatever Mike wants to call himself, Leonard Groundwater Filtration Plant.
Motion by Councilman Eichelhardt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Orleans. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
And second is the approval to sign a contract with Advanced Disposal Recycling Services and LLC Community Waste Services to exercise renewal options for yard waste collection and recycling and temporary solid waste transfer station services contracts.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We currently have two contracts with the firm that we typically know as CWS for our yard waste and recycling curbside collection. And this agreement would extend that contract for one additional year beyond the current term to September 1, 2014, and it would extend our contract for the solid waste transfer station until expiration date of December 1, 2017. In consideration for this, Advanced CWS has agreed to several terms, most importantly being that they will add 2 bulky trash amnesty days, which have become very popular among our citizens, to be able to clean out their basements and garages and so forth at no cost. And that is an event that typically costs us in the range of $5,000 to $10,000, so that's not insignificant concession, as well as repairs to the transfer station and our continuing service from the inimitable Charlie Slade and his sister Vicki Seelock, who don't own Advanced, but they should.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Mooring? Councilman Orleans.
I really think we should have a representative from the company come up here and make a semi-presentation of some sort.
Charlotte.
Especially since we sat here all night.
Yes, sir. We tried to get the president, Vicki Seelock, to come, but she sent a representative, who I believe is still here, Mr. Slade, and I'm sure he would be happy to do that, but I will tell you on behalf of our department that this is a wonderful contract. We have great service, and I would recommend this to you even if they were not doing the additional service.
In the interest of time, unless I see a second to that, we're not going to call him. Councilman Eichelhardt.
Because he's been sitting here so long, it's probably a president not to have to get up and just go ahead and do this. We obviously do contracts in a certain way for our protection, and if there's ever an example of a firm that deserves long-standing approval, this would be it. And so, you guys and Charlie in particular, thank you for all you've done. Everybody knows many things they've done over the past. This is really without question. So I make a motion to do that. However, Charlie has to continue to be the assistant for however long we do this. Seriously, I know that may not be an option, but I wish we could. But
that is item 3 in our contract terms.
But for the rest, I move for approval.
Motion by Councilman Eichelhardt, second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Charlie, we appreciate what you do for us.
At this time, I'll hear from Rich DiPolito to cover approval of amendment to the City Hall Human Resources Policies and Procedures Manual, Chapter 3, Section 3.7, Anti-Nepotism and Paternalism.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was originally placed on the consent agenda. Approval of an amendment to the City of Roswell Human Resources Policies and Procedures Manual.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. This item is a request to revise our human resources policy, specifically regarding the employment of relatives in our city departments. The revision request seeks to give discretion, operational discretion, to the city administrator to allow the employment of relatives within the same division of a department where she deems that it is not an operational inefficiency or any kind of disruptive effect on the operations of our department. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does the council have any questions regarding granting discretion to the city administrator? Councilmember Price.
Yes, I know we've discussed this at committee, and I don't think we had any major objection to this, but I know that nepotism has been a concern in many cities, especially small cities, and as we've grown, it's not been as much of a problem as it was in the past, but I still am concerned that a policy that was recommended by our HR directors is now being modified, and I'm just curious how this compares to other cities. What sort of anti-nepotism policies are there in general out there, and does this deviate from the norm?
That's a great question. I don't think it deviates from the norm. What I'm most accustomed to is prohibitions within a department. This one goes a little bit further regarding when we first revised the policy about a year ago. I think I said in committee that I think I painted it with too broad a brush. We excluded employment of relatives even when there is no supervisory relationship within a division of a department. And we have departments where division boundaries are so broad that employees could go days, weeks, maybe even months without crossing each other's paths in the workplace. So we just felt, based on our experience, that we had painted that with too broad a brush. I don't believe this proposed revision takes us outside the bounds with what others are doing with respect to nepotism policies.
What would be the smallest division of a department that we could find in the numbers of employees?
Probably within administration. I would think my own department, we have some divisions within administration that have 4 employees. I would respectfully suggest that the city administrator might find that to be a little bit too close for comfort and not grant this exception in those cases. I can't speak for her, but in that small a division, it seems unlikely that that might occur.
Mrs. Love would like to comment.
Councilmember Price, I certainly understand your concern, and you weren't here when I came to the city of Roswell, but when I came to the city of Roswell, the nepotism policy was very lax, and I am probably more stringent than most people are about knowledgeable and concerned about the problems that it does cause when relatives work not only in the same city but in the same department. So I actually initiated the original changes to the policy, and in doing that, we have found that there could be situations where it makes perfectly good sense for employees to work in the same division of a larger department where they may never see each other, not have any contact, and certainly under no circumstances will there be any opportunity for any supervisory. So it may come up or it may not come up, but it just provides me the flexibility to make an exception should that come up, and I don't make very many exceptions, if any at all. So, but if it's something that the council's not comfortable with, then it stays as it is, and we continue to employ people and deliver the high-quality services that we do.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
To approve?
Motion to approve by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Diamond. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is Councilmember Orleans, Eichelhardt, Wynn, DiPolito, and Diamond. All opposed? That would be Councilmember Price. Passes.
I was affirmative.
Affirmative. I apologize. I didn't see the hand up the first pass.
I was a little slow.
Little slow. That is unanimous. All right, do we have a motion for closure?
Motion.
Let me see, that is closure to discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate, the whole package. And we have a motion by Councilmember Wynn, a second by Councilmember Orleans. I'm giving him credit for that. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Let's adjourn to Mr. Martin, I don't know if you were present, but you are now on the Board of Construction Appeals and Arbitrations, or whatever we call it. The busiest board in Roswell.